Hey everybody, welcome to another Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments in the live feed below. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During this live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it and I'll reveal the results towards the end. Well, for those of you who don't know me, welcome to the Ask the Expert. My name is Ketan Makwana. I'm the CEO and Chief Disruptor at Enterprise Lab, a global or international talent innovation and business innovation company that serves to make better people for better businesses, for better economies. And why are we here today? We are here today to talk about how to create the best version of yourself. Look, I've been through this a number of times throughout my career, having to sort of sit there, reflect and say, look, you know, am I where I want to be? Can I get to where I want to get to? And I think over the next sort of 20 minutes, 30 minutes that we are together, I want to be able to really help you take these kind of questions on from you. So, you know, get those questions prepared, send them over, and I'll answer those a little bit later. So as we get into this, what is it about being the best version of yourself? Why would you want to become the best version of yourself? I don't know, it sounds a bit of a daft question. Why would you want to do that? Because some people actually don't believe that they can get to a best version of themselves, or they need to. But I think it's really important. I think from time to time, you really need to be able to come back within yourself, reflect, and actually push, challenge. Remember the statement that what doesn't challenge you won't change you. So if you're not in the environment that you want to be in, if you're not really happy with what you've got, it's not just because you haven't put enough effort in, it's because you're not doing anything that's not challenging you. So I've got 5 tips that I'm going to start you off with basically. The first thing I want to talk to you about is letting go of limiting beliefs. Now, beliefs, if you think about spelling the word belief out, there is a lie in the middle, L-I-E, and that is the secret to letting go of limiting beliefs. Now, most people, when they think of limiting beliefs, it's the bit that I can't or I shouldn't or have this whole imposter syndrome thing. I want you to put all of those things, cast all of those things to one side. The most important thing is the lie that you keep telling yourself. So your belief system and mechanism is built completely on a lie. But be careful, because the lie can become the truth. It will become the truth. So what you keep telling yourself is what you see and believe to be true. So when you're looking at removing limiting beliefs, the most important thing is to start talking yourself in and start talking yourself up. Remember, it's the lie that you're telling yourself that's the center of your belief system. So I really want you to start thinking about, what is it that I'm telling myself? What is it that I'm not telling myself? And the simplest way of letting go of limiting beliefs is primarily to start changing that lie. Now, the next thing is amplify your strengths. And I mean amplify your strengths. In order to become the best version of yourself, you really do need to have an element of an ego. And I don't mean that in a bad way. You need to have this inner desire that, you know, you are good, you are capable, you do have the prerequisites and the strengths, etc. And you need to start thinking about amplifying your strengths. We're not good at everything, but we are great, and we do have geniuses in things. And it's going down deep into yourself and knowing where it is that you're good and great. Now remember that the whole relationship and the theme that goes through the best version of yourself is the conversation that you have with yourself. Because no one else externally can do this for you. You have to do it by yourself. It's for you, by you. That's the most important thing to remember here. Amplifying your strengths also ensures that you actually work in the areas that you are most capable, have the most skill base, but also are most energized by as well. Excuse me. Then the third one, I need you to start building a growth mindset. Now, you may have heard about these things before. What is a growth mindset? How do I achieve a growth mindset, etc. Now, as an entrepreneur and a business owner myself, I have to have a certain level of authenticity, authority, and I have to show a level of strength and commitment to what I'm doing, even if I feel a little bit of fear or vulnerability. And when you're talking about a growth mindset, it's about focusing on your strengths rather than your weaknesses. You know where your weaknesses are, but amplifying and looking at every situation and seeing where it is that you can impact and influence. So anything from actually looking at doing the accounts in your business or the figures in your business to actually trying to achieve your next sale. Understand within the processes of all of this, where are you the greatest? What geniuses do you have? And always talk yourself in. That's the most key thing with the best version of yourself. Now, alongside this, the fourth tip that I have here is be willing to shed your old identity. I cannot stress how important this is. Now, I'm going to tell you a very quick story, essentially. So I've been running Enterprise Lab for about 10 years now. I started it back in May 2011. So actually next month, we turn 10. Now, I've grown this business through the decades into what it is today. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to achieve. But like late last year, be it the pandemic or whatever it was, I started to actually feel that I'm not really entirely satisfied with what we're doing or what I'm doing. I couldn't really feel the love of the work that I was doing. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a dangerous position because you could actually undo a lot of greatness that you actually put into things. Now, I'm telling you all of this because sometimes we do this. We work really hard to get to somewhere. And then when you actually fall out of love with what you're doing, you're undoing all the things that you've done so greatly. So I actually made a decision early this year after recovery from COVID, not because of COVID, but after recovering from COVID, I made a decision. I'm going to step down as the CEO of my company, primarily because I feel I've taken the company to where I can, and I need someone to now come in and be able to take it into the next decade, which is one thing. I want to get out of my own way. But what it also is a truth that I said to myself. The reason why I wasn't satisfied or happy is because I couldn't feel the impact of the work that I was doing. I needed to get back to doing things that I'm passionate about and I could feel the impact with. Things like podcasting, things like Ask the Expert, all these different things are the things that really, really drive me and inspire me. So I made capacity. I gave myself the permission to say, it's okay. You don't have to be the CEO of a company. You can move forward and do different things. And within this, what I started to do is come back to that identity of when I started Enterprise Lab. And because that's come through, I needed to shed away the old Ken. So there are parts of your identity that you're going to have to shed away, and be proud to shed that away, because what you're doing is you're going back to that center of your heart, what's most important to your heart. When you want to create the best version of yourself, it's so important that you understand that you're listening to your heart and not your head. That's one of the biggest key things, because your head is strategic. Your heart is your actual natural energy. It's where your energy will flow in and out with, essentially. Now, the fifth one, this one is quite straightforward to understand, and hopefully you guys will kind of get this, is you have to prioritize your outcomes. And I mean prioritize your outcomes in a way where you're building smart goals. You've got to create measurable goals that you can actually achieve. So, for example, I'm going to come back to me again. You know, this isn't new year, new me, new Ketan. This is actually, I wanted to get back to the old Ketan, the Ketan that started Enterprise Lab, that was out there making an impact, feeling the work, creating the legacy of what what he stood for. And actually, as I started to find that permission within myself, and I started to actually become more excited, I couldn't just run out there at 100 miles an hour with enthusiasm and inspiration and try to make things happen. I needed to strategize. I needed to plan things. I needed to set things out in a way that would allow me to transition. So right now, I'm still the CEO of Enterprise Lab, but I'm actually in caretaker mode. I'm actually caretaking the business while we find my successor. At the same time, I build a plan and a priority to launch my podcast. And I've done that. Slowly but surely, we've actually started to record episodes, release those episodes, and I'm having a great time doing this. At the same time, I've launched my foundation and we started to get involved in projects. Like, for example, only last week, we sent 2 million masks in a container to Jamaica. So it's part and parcel of the process that you're actually working on here is prioritize your schedule, in terms of the things that you need to get out. So schedule your priorities, I mean, in that sense, and actually plan out what it is that you want to actually do. Take small steps rather than giant leaps, because you are now kind of rejuvenated with your energy. You're rejuvenated with your belief system. And it's very easy to just fall into the trap of running and then actually fracturing yourself to that extent. And when you do get to that stage where you would fracture yourself, what happens is you look back and you think, well, why did I change? Well, I knew I shouldn't have done this. And you start to create what we call the resentment regret system, whereby you look at everything, you fall down a slippery slope and into a dark place, which then takes toxicity takes over. So best versions of you, there are many more other things that are involved in it. But I mean, with the time that we have today, I really wanted to share those kind of 5 things. So let go of limiting beliefs. But remember, a belief is a lie. There's a lie in the middle of a belief system. So whatever it is that you believe in is based on the lie that you tell yourself. So if you're not in the right belief system, that means you're not telling yourself the right lies. You do need to sometimes make a false statement, really primarily to re-kick the head into place. As I say, your heart works in one way and your head works in another. Amplify your strengths. Wherever you go, talk up in the areas of genius that you have, rather than the things that, oh, I'm not so good, not sure about that, or I'm not good at that. Talk about, well, I understand this, but this part of this is what I can do really, really well. Build a growth mindset. Always focus on the things that you can do, you can achieve, where you can work, where you can connect, and really open yourself up to what more things do I want to learn and grow in. Be willing to shed the old person, the old identity. I'm not saying the whole identity needs to go, but the part that's been holding back recently is the bit that needs to go, because it needs to come back to that position of where you want to be, the kind of person you want to feel like. And remember, prioritize your outcomes. Build a plan, build a strategy, and take small steps. Last thing, repeating again, is what doesn't challenge you won't change you. So if you're in an environment where you don't feel you are yourself, you've put yourself there, you need to take yourself out. You are 100% accountable and responsible for changing your life circumstances. No one else can do that for you. Others can influence it, but you can only change it. Only you can do that. And being a best version of you is also being the most happiest state that you have. So do the things that make you happy. Do the things that energize you. Do the things that keep you excited. Those are the true things about becoming the best version of yourself. And remember that these things come in cycles. You'll go through periods of time where essentially you will have highs, and then you'll kind of slowly, gradually come back down. You plateau for a little while, and then you go back up high. And it's a little bit like what you see as a heartbeat. When a heartbeat goes on an ECG monitor or whatever it is, basically it'll peak up, it'll go back down, then it'll level, peak up, go down, go level. You are never going to be at a constant state, 100% state of happiness, or 100% state of high energy, or 100% state of the best version. But understand, for everything that goes up, you have to come back down, re-level, then go back up, then come back down and re-level. But it's okay. That's how life works. So look, I really hope you found those kind of tips really useful. Let's have a look to see where we are with questions. Oh wow, they're coming in straight away. So we've got Bryn from Facebook Messenger. I'm really a hard worker, but I completely feed off the energy of others. Now my business is mostly digital. I found it hard to keep motivation and personal productivity up. Any advice on how you give myself a boost? Bryn, it's a very, very great question, and I think it's something that all of us have had to have an impact with during the pandemic and the lockdown. Feeding off other people's energy, what you're actually referring to probably here is being within a live and physical environment. You need to feel other people around you, and I don't mean touchy-feely in that sense, but you just kind of feeding with that. What you have when you're in a physical space or a live space with someone compared to when you're on a digital space, sometimes the messages can't get over. Now, one thing that I have done, because I am also, as much as I'm an introvert, I'm also someone who really likes to connect and get out there. We were just talking about this behind the scenes before this went on live, about getting back onto live stages. When you give a keynote, you know, the energy that you get from the room is just amazing. So one of the things that I found is really important for me to maintain an area of productivity. Now, it's not about being just fully productive and potent in your work. It's to actually take regular continual breaks and offset away from the work that you're doing, and actually re-engage into other types of conversations, re-engage with your own ability to actually go and take a breather and a walk and things like this. Now, I know you are someone that's energized by other people around you, but sometimes just the simplistic thing of a 5 to 10 minute or a 15-minute walk out in the fresh air, in the open, and perhaps around other live strangers will help you start to rebuild a little bit of that energy. Now, what happens here, and I'm not going to kind of dwell on this too much, is as your head starts to come into play and start telling you these kind of things, those lies that, look, you're someone that needs to have other people around you to continue energizing yourself, you go into a catabolic state of energy leadership, which means that it starts to break you down. This is where resentment, regret, fear, frustration, fighting happens. You want to get back to a coping mechanism before you can get back into an anabolic state. And these small things, I mean, this is what I do. These are the small things. I break away from what I'm doing. I kind of detach myself completely away from it, even if it's like so dare I say it, a 10-15 minute kind of dance around the kitchen, listening to Spotify or whatever it is, basically. But do something a little bit different than what you're doing right now, and it will help you kind of recharge the energy that you have there. But a great question to start with. Iman, really interesting stuff, Ketan. Thanks for the Friday boost. I've heard a lot about elevator pitches, and great way to network and drum up support. Have you ever used these? And what is the best way to craft one about yourself? Okay, Iman, elevator pitches. Actually, my point on this, and I'm going to be a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek with this, is I don't like the words elevator pitch, because obviously it's built around this whole thing of you're in an elevator, you've got to get to the top, and you've got to make it and make sure that you've got the right kind of pitch as you go along. Otherwise, they'll throw you out the building or throw you out the window or whatever it is, basically. Let's take the pressure off, number one. Okay, just when you go into a network environment, you don't need to elevate or pitch yourself within. In fact, you don't even have to pitch yourself at all when you get out there. I think the first thing around kind of networking in this kind of way and presenting yourself is make it first about the other person before you make it about yourself. Give yourself the chance to understand what information do you need to really send to this other person, because half of what you're about to say to them, which you may have prepared in an elevator pitch, may be completely irrelevant. So you've just wasted half of the time, half of your breath, half of the energy, and half of their listening to you capacity. So make it more about them first. Be more inquisitive. So use the situation where you can say, "Hi, I'm Iman. I'll and maybe introduce who you are and what you do slightly. You can say, "But I'm really fascinated to learn more about you." Bang, 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 bang. And then you start to add in the things that you want to. If you are in an environment where you are pressurized and that you've got 20 seconds or a minute to make the necessary presentation, get the key facts out. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here? And what is it you're looking for? 4 things, really, really nice and simple. Never ever overcomplicate your pitch or presentation, because if it's complicated, you're going to forget what you want to say, or you're going to over complex it, and it's going to come out the wrong way to the audience. So if you don't really understand what you're saying, your audience, whoever is listening to you, may not understand that as well. So 2 top tips there. Number 1, if you're networking, always make it about the other person first. Show as much interest as you can there, and then only tell them the things that are relevant about you to that conversation. And on the flip side, if you are on an elevator pitch thing, really get the 4 things out. Who you are first. Obviously, they need to know your identity, what do you do, why you're here, and what you're looking for in terms of a connection and stuff like that. They're the first 4 things that I would start with. But again, another great question. Gabby from Instagram, it's so hard not to compare success with others. Do you have any advice? Simplest thing, Gabby, yes, never ever do compare your successes with others, because it's your own. It's the same scenario and situation. The minute you start looking into other people's lanes, you're not running your own race. You're actually running theirs. But the important thing here is when you're actually building up to doing whatever it is that you want to do, and when you kind of define or determine what success looks like to you, you need to really go back to as far back as that and actually understand why you're setting up what you're setting up. So if you decided you want to get into, I don't know, digital marketing, I want to know why. Now, don't give yourself those kind of answers, oh, because I'm good at it and I like it. There is a truth in there that you've probably seen someone else do it and you thought, right, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. That's where the infection starts, basically. You know, if you're seeding on the fact that you're going into something and you're measuring or trying to build a success level based on because someone else is doing it, you're always going to start to say, well, why is it that they've got there and I haven't? And believe me, as a CEO of a company, I've worked with amazing people all over the world, you know, royalty, celebrities, all these kind of things. And there are still times where I look on things like social media and I see other people in my network and I think, how is it that they got there? But I don't now look at it and say, and I haven't. Your success comes in a different way, in a different level. The only one thing that I would say to you is, as long as you're happy with what you've achieved, as long as you're content, as long as you believe that you've done as much as you can to get to where you can, that's successful enough. You don't need to look at what other people are doing. And the other side to this is you just don't know how deep their iceberg is, what they've had to actually go through or not go through to get to where they are. So those are the kind of things that I would say to you. Really, really good. So Jamie Lee from Facebook Messenger. Setting up my company was the best decision I've ever made, but it's not been an easy ride. A skill I possess is that I stand strong through storms, but I really take things to heart too much. Do you think entrepreneurs who are good at putting their feelings aside have a chance to get further? The truth of things is there are two sides to a coin, and there are also two sides to the emotional states of entrepreneurs. And believe me, you're talking to one right now. Well, you're not talking. I'm talking to you on this basis. But you know, there is the whole kind of driven, value, creative, euphoric side, you know, the disruptive side of the entrepreneur. And then there's this whole kind of state of emotional EQ stuff, isolation, loneliness, toxicity, the conversations that we have with ourselves. There's one thing that I can relate to you here, Jamie Lee, and this is what I do and I've always naturally done all my life. And I've kind of started to learn how not to do it so much now, and that's responsibility on shoulders. No matter what's going on around me in the world, you know, whether it's the pandemic or something's happened at home, all of a sudden I feel a sense of responsibility that I need to act on it, I need to work on it, and this is the bit where everything takes you to heart. The reason why is because you care so much about what it is that you're in and where it is that you're going. And when you care so much, there's this whole protection system that you put around you that I don't want anyone to hurt my care. And what that means is that sometimes you put this whole pressure on things like judgment. So if you've worked really hard at something and someone hasn't been able to acknowledge you for that, you take it to heart. If you've worked on something and you can see other people aren't working as hard as you are, you take it to heart. And I think these are the things which are built within the sort of, not the resilient side, but the vulnerability side of an entrepreneur. Because remember, as much as we are around people, we also feel we're also alone. Within my kind of first episode of my podcast, one thing that I said on the Confessions of a CEO is that you are on a lonely planet. Why? Because there are certain levels of conversations that you cannot have with anyone else but yourself. So I want you to remember, you matter. You care, you have all responsibilities, but you also have a genius spot. You are also doing things that other people cannot do. And you're there because of that very reason. You are doing what you're doing because other people can't do it. Now, when you start thinking that way around, nothing can hit the heart. Remember, you're letting your head creep into your heart. Go the other way around. Let your heart fill up your head. But great question, Jamie Lee. Brody from Instagram DM. The hardest shift for me and my business grew is developing leadership skills. I'm normally quite shy person and I'm often unconfident with how I come across. What are your top 3 leadership tips? Wow. Okay. What are my top 3 leadership tips? We've got about 6 minutes left. I'm going to try and crush this because I've got another question that I want to take as well. So the first thing is put on your own mask before you go out and help others. The truth of this is you need to be instilled and confident and in self-belief of yourself before you can really go off and lead others. When you talk about leadership, there are so many different things that happen within leadership. So, there is this whole thing of the decisions that you have to make, the actions that you take, the impact it's going to have on others around you. And especially when you're in turbulent or uncertain times, if you are the leader of your business, usually anyone that you work with around you, your clients, your customers, your partners, your employees, they all look up to you because you are steering the ship. And it's at that point that you've got to be resilient, you've got to be firm, and you've got to be very, very clear about what you're doing. So the first tip I have is, when I say about put on your own mask before helping others, is get it right in your head. Don't worry about what's going to happen or not happen. You can't control that. You can only control what you're going to do in this space right now. So whether you're in a crisis management situation, you're in a business continuation management system, you're looking at actually making some real tough decisions within the company, understand that it's not the result that you're driving for, it's actually taking that next step of action. You've got to believe in everything that you're doing at that point in time, because you show one chink of vulnerability, this will actually start to unravel very, very quickly. So tip number one, put on that mask before helping others. Tip number two, you're not going to get it right all the time. You're a human, and I accept that, understand that. But you've got to do what's important, not sometimes that could be something in the surface of things looks wrong rather than right. And that's where a lot of people get uncomfortability. They think, look, I'm going to do this and it's going to cause this and it's going to have that. And you start to go down this rabbit hole of what the future is going to look like. Leadership is not about the future. Leadership is about what you do now. Be present in your and active in your current state. It's important that you do that, because when you are engaging with others, you explain about the now rather than the future. And remember, what happened yesterday, it's gone. You can't affect it. You can't change it in any way, shape, or form. And the third tip that I would have to you is express yourself in the way that you're most comfortable. Sometimes some people can't present it all, on a one-to-one level. So start with a little bit of maybe email writing, or present it onto a video, or express your thoughts in some form of documentation and text. I've done that during the pandemic. I wrote a letter to every employee because I wanted to express in one particular way before I got to the next. So it's important that you find the method and channels of communicating in a way that you're going to feel that you can get the message across clear and concise. Right, okay. I'm going to take Lily's question, and then I'm going to go for a wrap up, because we're going to go for the answers on the poll as well. So, hi, what do you have learned about developing a growth mindset and you wish you knew before? Has that helped you develop your company? So the growth mindset has always growth mindsets is always about what you can do and how you can lean in. It has absolutely helped me build my business, because I've always gone with the whole motto of what challenges you changes you. My company does the same thing. We push the parameters of what we can do in the market. If someone came to us and said, you can't do this, I'm not going to sit there and say, watch, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to look at it and say, why would you say that? And what is it that I'm not doing that I could be doing that would allow me to do that? So there you have that type of growth mindset push. And that's what you want to do. You always want to talk yourself in, and you always want to look at saying, right, okay, I've got to this stage here. What can I do to push it to the next stage here? What doesn't challenge you won't change you. So great question there, Lily. Okay, so, and the poll that we asked you was, do you have an action plan for your own growth? And 100% of you said no. Okay, look, it's okay that you don't have an action plan, but it's not okay that you won't work towards an action plan. So I want you to think about these kind of 5 tips. Start to ask yourself those kind of questions and reach out to your network. Go to the Facebook group, go through Twitter, go through any of your network groups. If you're vulnerable on something, it's not a weakness asking for help. It's a strength. It shows that you understand where you have and have not got particular things. So get out there, ask, and say, right, how do I build myself, my kind of growth plan? Because I think it's really, really, really important for you. So Okay, 100% of you haven't got a growth plan, but that doesn't mean that you can't have one. You know, Warren Buffett talks about the fact that 20 years ago is a good time to plant a tree. The next opportunity that's great is right now. So if you haven't got one from the past, doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. Start today into tomorrow. Right. Okay, that is it. All questions finished. The 260th episode, I believe, of Ask the Expert. So this is kind of milestone. But before we kind of switch off and sign off to this, I want to give some major props to someone who you guys don't really often see or heard of from the background. Her name's Ebba. Ebba is a person that actually gets people like me to come forward and come on to Ask the Expert, works with me on the topics, works with me on the content and the direction. And unfortunately, it's Ebba's last day with Ask the Expert. So if you can, I want you to give her lots of hugs and appreciation on the comments and stuff like this. It's been a wonderful experience working with someone like Ebba, and I'm sure she's going to be doing amazing things wherever she goes. But I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that there is a whole team that get on behind here. You know, Harry, Susie, Ebba, the whole team that actually work to get this type of programming to you. And unfortunately, one of the superheroes of that squad is actually going to be moving on to pastures new. So good luck, Ebba, with everything that you're doing. It was also her birthday as well a couple of days ago. So make sure you get a happy birthday on those comment links as well. So that's it. Thank you all for tuning in this morning. If you have any further questions for myself, you can send me a DM at Twitter. My handle is at Ketan_Makwana. Coming up on Ask the Expert on Tuesday, not on Monday, on Tuesday, because Monday's a bank holiday, is Sean Goldsmith. He's a special advisor to the franchise industry, as well as a multi-unit, multi-brand franchise with extensive international experience. Tune in and get advice on how to grow and franchise your business. This will be a great one. So I'll be definitely tuning in for this as well. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. My name's Ketan Makwana. I really enjoyed answering your questions this morning. I hope you found my tips on creating the best version of you really useful. Remember, if you haven't got a growth plan, go out and make one. Have a great bank holiday weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.